Welcome, brothers and sisters, to Men Metal Mayhem, the podcast where the brothers men take a deep dive into the discographies of our favorite metal bands. I'm your host, Brother Paul, joined as ever by my two brothers and co-hosts, Brother John
Hell is only a word. Reality is much, much worse.
and Brother Dave.
I desire the new beginning.
Season 3, Jesus Freaks. We are diving into the world of Christian metal, and today we are discussing Zayo's classic 1999 album, Liberate Te Ex Inferis. Join us as we desire the end. Released August 10th, 1999, when crafting this season, I asked the brothers to pick out an album they thought would be a good fit. And Brother John almost immediately landed on Zayo. So we are going to skip the usual segment where we share about where we were at when this album came out. And I'm giving the floor over to Brother John to talk about his history with Zayo. Brother John.
All right. Well, thanks, Brother Paul. So my history with Zayo. So this album came out, I would have been 16 at the time, but I would have discovered Zayo a couple of years prior, I believe, and I can't really remember. So their first album or their first full length called The Splinter Shards, The Birth of Separation was released in 97. And I may have discovered them sometime shortly after that came out, because I for sure loved that. I listened to that one so much all the time. And then their second album, Where Blood and Fire Bring Rest, was released in 1998. And I also loved that one. And so I can't recall. I may have gotten into them sometime after the second album was out and just got both of them and listened to them pretty much on repeat. But like at the time, Zayo was like my favorite band, at least my favorite metal band, because I mean, the Boss Tones, obviously, probably my favorite overall band. Hard to say though, because depending on, do I want ska or do I want some kind of metal infused something or other? But anyways, this band Zayo just had a ton of was always on rotation for me, basically. And at the time, it was probably some of the heaviest stuff that I was listening to. And I was just like, man, I wish there was more of this music out there, but, wasn't really too familiar with other bands that would have been in this genre. And I guess thinking back, at least, well, a lot of what we were listening to at the time was kind of like the Christian music, right? And I don't know if all these albums came out on Tooth and Nail Records, but at least the one Liberate Te Ex Inferis was on Tooth and Nail. And that was like the album that had a lot of the more alternative and metal Christian stuff, but there wasn't even a ton of that at the time. Because looking back, like some sort of comparable sounding stuff was like, I guess you could say Norma Jean and Under Oath were kind of like that Christian metalcore, and they were a little different in how they sounded, but like the first Norma Jean album when they were under the band or the name Ludicrous, Lutikris, the album Throwing Myself, that came out in 2001. And Under Oath's The Changing of Times, which was their big breakthrough album, that came out in 2002. So this in the late 90s with Zayo, I mean, there wasn't a lot of other like Christian metalcore stuff going on. They were kind of like the progenitors of the genre almost. So anyways, I was just kind of eating up whatever I could. So I was super stoked when this album came out in 99 because I was already aware of Zayo and like excited for this release. And let's see. Oh, and I was looking back too, probably around the same time we were probably all getting into new metal because like Limp Bizkit's $3 Bill Y'all came out in 97 and Korn's Follow the Leader came out in 98. So those were two big ones for me. But like Zayo was like the first like metal or metalcore band that I really got into. I really loved them a lot. A little bit of background about Zayo. So they formed originally in 1993 in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and it was the main guy, Jesse Smith, on the drums, who started the band with a few other guys. And they had a couple of different member changes, and then they came out with that first album in '97. And then, like, they were just starting to kind of like hit it big in the Christian scene, and they played Cornerstone Festival in '97 and a couple shows on their way back home. And then everybody except for Jesse Smith up and quit the band because they wanted to pursue Christian ministry full time rather than doing music.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Praise the Lord about that. But if I was Jesse Smith, I'd be like, what the fuck, guys? Was this not our ministry? Like, we're a Christian band, like spreading the gospel, but they wanted, I guess, to be youth pastors or something.
I mean,
Not
first of
exactly
all,
sure.
language.
Yeah.
Oh,
What the fudge?
right. I would have been like,
Frick.
what the frick? This is freaking crazy, guys. Like, what happened to the band? But, not to be deterred, Jesse Smith went out and he found a new guitarist, Brett Detar, who connected him with guitarist Russ Codgel and singer Daniel Wayant. And Russ Codgel, Daniel Wayant, and Jesse Smith kind of were like the core of Zayo for the next while. I guess I didn't get into the exhaustive history to see, but that's kind of like who a lot of people consider to be like the band because they've gone through a lot of lineup changes, but at least I personally, kind of associate them with being Zayo because they released a few albums together, and actually Dan Wayant and Russ Codgel are still in Zayo to this day. Although Jesse Smith has moved on to other things, I guess. But anyways, like these other guys lived a few hours away in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. So Jesse Smith would travel there to rehearse and write the next album. So they came out with Where Blood and Fire Bring Rest in '98. And that kind of redefined their sound. Their first album was a lot more like hardcore influenced, but they were becoming more like metalcore and adding in some cooler, like darker metal riffs and stuff like that. So it was a little less hardcore. And the vocal style, I really like Dan Wayant's vocals, which we'll probably get into as we get into this album. But then in '98, Brett Detar left, but they found a replacement guitarist in Scott Mellinger. They added bassist Rob Horner, and then they released Liberate Te Ex Inferis in '99. And the name, it's Latin for Save Yourself from Hell, and it's taken from a line from the sci-fi horror movie Event Horizon, which I'm sure both you boys are familiar with. And that also, I'm certain that I saw Event Horizon before this album came out, because when I heard it, I was like, oh my God. It's the movie. I've seen that movie. That's awesome. And I love that movie. Like at the time when I saw it, probably in '97 or '98, like shortly after that movie came out, I was probably like 15 years old, and that was the scariest movie I had seen to that point. And I don't know, I probably hadn't watched a ton of scary movies because we didn't really watch a lot of scary stuff growing up, but this was maybe sort of a turning point where, we always like sci-fi stuff. And I was like, man, that movie is terrifying, but I liked it. So that could have been a turning point where I got more into horror movies. I'm not really sure. But yeah, so the album released in '99 on Tooth and Nail, or no, not Tooth and Nail, on Solid State Records. If I said Tooth and Nail before, I don't know what I said as I was rambling, but like Tooth and Nail and Solid State were like sister labels. Um, and the executive producer on this album, Brandon Ebel, he was the founder of Tooth and Nail and Solid State. So Tooth and Nail had more of like the not quite as hard metal stuff. Solid State was more like the metal and hardcore Christian albums. But Tooth and Nail was like sort of the alternative stuff. So not like adult contemporary. This is all like the Christian music the kids were listening to, the youth group kids. And let's see, Barry Pointer produced. He had produced a bunch of Zayo's albums as well as a lot of other Solid State Records albums.
Yeah, he's a big guy in the 2000s. He works with bands like Hasted Day and Dead Poetic and Living Sacrifice. So, I mean,
Yeah.
he's all over those Solid State bands.
Yeah, for sure. Well, a little bit more background. So I was reading, and so Jesse Smith and Dan Wayant had each stated in interviews that the sound of this album was influenced by the band Neurosis. And I had not listened to a lot of Neurosis. We kind of talked about this on the chat, but I can hear that. It's a little bit more like doomy post-metal stuff, and you can definitely hear that influence on this album. especially as opposed to like the first one, which I said was like more hardcore influenced and like a lot of fast, like shouty kind of vocals. And then the second album was a lot faster than this too. This one slows it down a little bit. And so, I got to listen to more Neurosis because what I listened, I did enjoy them. And yeah, so it's a little slower and like the vocals on this one, more like growled death and like death metal style vocals as opposed to that hardcore style. So I don't know. I think they have an interesting sound here on Liberate. Shall we dive in, or is there anything else that you got
Well,
to say
I
before we kick it off, Paul?
I was going to do the year in metal, so that
Oh,
we could focus on some secular contemporaries, and
oh,
there
by
was a
all
lot to
means.
choose from that year. But we as a group decided kind of on two, and the first one is the Dillinger Escape Plan and their album Calculating Infinity. It's their debut album, and it's a mathcore slash metalcore album. It's just wildly chaotic and technical, and definitely worth checking out. And then the other one is Neurosis Times of Grace, which that album wouldn't have been an influence because it came out just shortly before this one, but Neurosis already established as kind of the face of the post-metal scene, them and ISIS coming up at the same time. And those were the big two that inspired so many bands that came after them. And Times of Grace is just it's a crushing slab of post metal and it's really good and we will see just how far that influence goes on this album. Like Brother John mentioned, this album was released via Solid State Records, which was I mean that was the premier label for Christian metal and heavy bands. I mean, it was almost like in the 2000s if you saw a band was on Solid State, you could pick it up and guarantee that you'd pretty much enjoy it. It is 10 tracks, just over 40 minutes long, and it kicks off with track number one, Intro. Brother John, take us away.
Yeah, well, I like this intro. It's slow, and the guitars and drums, they sound dark and a little mysterious. So it's like a mood setter, I would say. And yeah, it's kind of a slow build. At 208, there's like a squeal of feedback, and then the
Mm-hmm.
distorted guitars start. So it takes a while to even get to the point where there's really much going on with the guitars, because it's kind of like undistorted guitars, like slow strumming and just like these slow drums. But then it kind of gets into some kind of chuggy stuff. They do this cool pinch harmonic squeal at about 215. Yeah, I don't know. I just like what the guitar is doing here. It's a good start to the album. It's building to something, and my interest is peaked. And then at 327, we get the quote from Event Horizon. You know nothing. Hell is only a word. Reality is much, much worse. And then it launches right into the next song. So, it's like, wow, we're in for something here. What'd you guys think? And Brother Dave in particular, had you really listened to this album before? Because Paul, you had listened to some Zayo, right? Or maybe I'm wrong about that.
Well, let's let Brother Dave go and then I'll do my bit.
Sounds good. I haven't really listened to Zayo, and it's kind of I think I lumped them in with a bunch of hardcore and metalcore that you were into in the like early 2000s that just wasn't really my jam necessarily. But throwing on this first intro song, it's post metal and it's good. It's just a great song. It's really moody. Uh it's introspective, but they inject variety at just the right frequency to keep it interesting throughout. They've got that really nice like high droning guitar over everything that builds that tension and then leads into those squeals and the like more metal part that comes in the second half. This is a great intro, and I think it absolutely sets the mood. Um, I didn't have a deep connection to Event Horizon, and I thought that the quote was kind of out of place at the end. I think it didn't particularly fit in well with the sound that they'd made. But maybe that's personal preference. I'm not going to hold it against them too much.
Good, because Event Horizon is a fantastic movie, and I think for a long time it was, one of my favorite films. It was always in the top three. And I was listening to this album today, outside, snow blowing the driveway, and I was like, man, I really wish that we all lived nearby each other so we could go watch Event Horizon on this very wintry day.
What we got to
I
do sometime, we just got to all agree to watch it at the same time, like start it in unison, and then we can just get the text chain going with whatever comments we have, or just get on a group chat
yeah.
or like a group call so we can just talk through the movie.
Yeah. I was not very familiar with Zayo at all. Sort of like, so I always thought that you were a fan of Neurosis, Brother John, and when you
I
said
had
that you,
never even heard them once, I don't
which
think,
is
until like 2 weeks ago.
which is crazy because I'm a big Neurosis fan. Like I love post metal probably, more than you guys, but like you listen to ISIS,
Yeah,
right?
I was always a
Okay.
big ISIS guy. I guess
All
I didn't
right.
realize what I was
It
missing.
was the real
Is it?
Corn slash Limp Bizkit rivalry. You could only be a big fan of one, not the other. So I guess
Mhm.
you went ISIS and I went Neurosis. So I knew two songs well off of this album, and I'll mention them when they come up. But I've just Zayo had never appealed to me. I'm not a big metalcore guy. Listening to like solid state bands, I was always more into kind of Dead Poetic or Beloved, which they skew more kind of post-hardcore, which is
Yeah, and like emo, a little
yeah,
more emo-ish, less
yeah,
metal-ish.
yeah, like metalcore as a genre, just I never really got it. There's some exceptions, our good friends in Still Remains. I enjoy that. I did like The Changing of Times by Under Oath, but again, that's maybe
I'd
more.
say those two albums are kind of in a similar vein. And as I was thinking about this too, like metalcore is a very diverse genre because a lot of it leans more hardcore,
Hmm.
and I don't necessarily get into that quite as much. Although I did like the first Zayo album that was more that in that vein. But I don't know, you get a real wide variety of what you might expect or like what you might get with a metalcore album. It's just sort of a
Yeah.
diverse genre, I think.
And that's so I guess I've never been able to really pin it down because, apparently Kill Switch Engage is like a huge metalcore band and I'd only ever heard their cover of Holy Diver. So I
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard that. But yeah, like The End of Heartache, that album is great. I like that one a lot.
God, I listened to the one before it, their second album, and whoever listens to the show will be mad that I can't remember the name of it. Alive or Just Breathing. Like apparently that's a breakthrough seminal metalcore album, and I listened to it today, and I was like, huh, it's so melodic, and
Yeah.
like it's where and Zayo is not.
I associate, like, after listening to this, I'd say this is closer to hardcore than it is to metalcore. I feel like metalcore wasn't really a thing yet at this point. It was still maybe
Yeah, it
being
was still in
defined.
the fledgling stages for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went in relatively blind. I knew of Zayo. I'd heard this before, but I really only remember two songs. Boy, did I love this one because it's a post metal song. It is a almost 4 minute long post metal song, and it does it perfectly, and I love it. No notes. Which takes us to track number two, Savannah, Brother Dave.
This one starts off with some dissonance, which, I mean, maybe we shouldn't be surprised. Dissonance is a big part of hardcore and early metalcore. Um, and it's building to a payoff that we get at 25 seconds in. I'm not sure what I was expecting the payoff to be, but this one doesn't really diddle my berries. It is it it feels like generic hardcore to me. This whole song kind of feels like the tropes of the genre all put into one song. And if you're into early 2000s hardcore slash metalcore, I mean, maybe this song is right up your alley. But like it's got awkward transitions kind of throughout, and it's got like extensive overuse of that hardcore dissonant chord uh, that they hammer on it. I think this song shows off a lot of what didn't draw me in the 2000s, and it still doesn't really draw me in now,
So
unfortunately.
I want to dive in. I want to jump in here because you have very much the same thoughts I do. And I think listening to this album back in the day, I would have heard the first song and loved it. And then it goes to this, and I'm like, this, oh my God, what is happening? This is terrible and bad and not what I want. After that stellar intro. But- So talking about awkward transitions, like right at that 25-second mark, it right before the vocals comes in, it sounds like he flubs it on the guitar. And I don't know if it's that's how the transition sounds or if he just fucked up or if it's just bad. Like I'm gonna cut that clip into see like it sounds like he's just like, fuck, okay, let's do it now.
We'll do it live.
Yeah, and I don't love that the high guitar they're doing the dee, 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 just throughout this album, I think there are a lot of tropes that I associate with metalcore, but at the same time, this is maybe one of the first albums to do them.
Right. They
So
they
it's
may not have been tropes at the time.
yes. So there'll be a couple others that I call out. That said, I don't dislike this song. It is an unexpected shift after the intro, but I mean, it's short. It's less than 3 minutes. It's wild and chaotic, and I think it maybe is a better representation of what the album is. But I don't hate it. I actually kind of like it. It's grown on me a lot, which spoiler I think will be kind of my theme for this album is that I'm like, oh, okay, I get the appeal. I get it.
Yeah. And to avoid being misunderstood here,
No,
the
I'm gonna
song's not
misunderstand you.
well, that's fair. This song's not bad. It just feels generic to me. Like it's well executed for what it is, but what it is not necessarily something I'm looking for.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think this is maybe one of my less favorite ones. It is, at least for some parts of it, kind of a straightforward punk style, like hardcore style, fast beat. And that one thing that really shines on a lot of the Zao songs is Jesse Smith's drumming. And, being a drummer, I always latched onto that. And I think that's probably one thing that really drew me in. He has a lot of interesting drum beats and cool fills and stuff. And it's like, wow, this is unique. This song doesn't necessarily have so much of that. It does have some fun stuff though. Like at 106, there's this fun galloping chug part that I thought was pretty cool. Just throughout, there's a lot of guitar squealing stuff and like distorted effects that I thought were pretty cool. And my favorite part at 201, I got to open up our segment, Bring the Mosh. Because they break it down and get real stanky with a heavily distorted low end bass riff. And that part is fun. Like you can just imagine being at the live show, opening up the pit and throwing down your best hardcore mosh pit moves to impress all your friends. It'd be pretty cool.
Nice. Well,
Brother Dave, can you imagine throwing down in a pit?
the
I could imagine trying to avoid the windmill kicks.
Yep.
be like just throwing a big old bag of bones into into the pit with you. Just,
Yep, just all elbows and knees from me.
just imagine Abraham Lincoln in a pit.
Try the churros.
Well, track number three, Autopsy. I love it. This is the peak late 90s hardcore metalcore sound right here. It's a furious slab of just aggression. And the vocals at 108 during the I think it's a Are You That Someone? They do an effect where his voice is kind of pulled back in the mix a bit. I like that production technique, but it does become a like metalcore trope, where they do that kind of distinct thing with the vocals. But I think this is a really good song. I like this one a lot. Brother John.
Yeah, and this one, well, it's another one that has more of a punk beat to it. It's fast. It's just over 2 minutes long. So it certainly does not overstay its welcome. And it also ends kind of abruptly, but, it worked fine as far as I could tell. But I really like the part on this one. It's right around 48 seconds where there's this guitar part, and then it goes into this huge slide at about 50 seconds. So it's like a maybe 3 or 4 second chunk of just some really cool guitar work and an awesome slide into the next part. Pretty awesome. So you should splice that in, for the fans.
I agree with everything you boys said. This one is peppy and it fits together really well. I think it's got a bunch of good riffs and they work. And yeah, in just over 2 minutes, it's like it's in, it hits hard and it's out. This is a great song.
Nice. Well, track number four, If These Scars Could Speak. Brother John.
All right. Well, this one, the intro has kind of a reverberating acoustic guitar and some interesting drum patterns with a lot of hi-hat and snare work. I thought that was pretty fun. At 228, we get into the real heavy breakdown part, at which point the whole pit would be just tearing it up. So, whenever I listen to these metalcore albums, I just imagine seeing the show live because, I went to a lot of these metalcore shows and it was always so fun to just like, even if I wasn't participating in throwing down in the pit, because I didn't always really do that, but it was always fun to watch the pit just open up and everybody's like getting their energy out and just having an awesome time. So I could just kind of imagine that as I listen to these songs and hear these parts. And then at 320, when it goes into the Scarlet Adorned the Snow part, just the guitar build and the sort of discordant sound at that part they're doing, it's just pretty rad. It's almost like a distressing sounding riff, which, matches well with the lyrical content and the themes of the song, which I think we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do that, what did you guys think of the musicality of this one?
Musicality.
Musical guest Zayo.
Brother Dave.
So stupid. Uh, I I like the acoustic intro. It has just a really nice vibe, but I feel like we kind of lose that vibe at 130 once we get the transition into the more hardcore part. It's another awkward hardcore transition. That said, it's a little rocky in the middle, but the end of this song musically, I think, is really doing it for me. Once they get into that kind of descending riff that they're doing around 345, um, and they throw some zazz on it at 4 minutes. It just feels kind of frantic and desperate, and it's well done. I like this song, and I also like the lyrics that we will talk about.
Yeah, well, obviously this is one of the two songs that I remember distinctly from this album. It's the intro is just iconic. It's
Mhm.
hard to overstate just how big the like acoustic guitars are on this, and it sounds really, really great. There's a pinch harmonic at 208 in there. It's just this entire song. I think it's great throughout. Yeah, there's probably some awkward metalcore transitions in there, brother Dave. I'll grant you that. But I mean, damn near flawless. This song is just it's a powerhouse. There's a reason why I remembered this one and not the others, when I wasn't a fan. Because I would listen to this. I'd be like, yeah, even not being a big fan of that genre, I would still listen to this specific song. And I
Mhm.
wonder if, in part, because like even if I didn't know the lyrics or wasn't listening closely, like you can tell there is some power and emotion behind this one. So we are going to get into it with a segment we call lyrical tactics, vocal gymnastics.
Lyrical tactics, vocal gymnastics.
And brother John, why don't you lead us on this?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I really would have known exactly what this song is about, having just read the lyrics, because they are, laden with metaphor and imagery as opposed to being like on the nose or overt about what exactly he's saying. But the band has been open that like the song is about basically a friend of theirs, a girl who was raped by basically a highly regarded member of the church. So I don't know, like maybe the youth group Golden Boy or something, but somebody that everyone in the church was like, "Oh, that guy's great. Like he would never do something like that." And then they like didn't believe her when she like came forward about it. And so they're basically writing this song to call out that hypocrisy and talk about just these real world issues that take place. And so I thought that was kind of interesting that, like, lyrically, they're a Christian band or they're Christians in a band, but they're not just singing about, oh, praise Jesus and everything's hunky dory and great. They're saying, like, these are the struggles that people go through. And, like, we're approaching it from a perspective of our faith and that sort of thing. Like, the world is full of shit, but here's what we believe that helps us, find meaning and get through these trying times or whatever. So, lyrically, just the way that they present it and the themes that they touch on in their music, I think that was one thing that I always kind of appreciated about Zayo.
Yeah, I had much the same thoughts. Not having any history with this band. I mean, I knew we chose them this season because they were Christian, but then reading through the lyrics, there there wasn't anything that stood out to me as explicitly Christian. And the lyrics on this album are very sparse. Um they're they're very metaphorical and sort of poetic. Uh, and so if you don't have that deeper insight into it, you might not necessarily know what exactly the songs are about, but it's very clear that they're super intentionally written and they're coming from a depth of empathy and like a cognizance of the brokenness of the world. Like this is just poetic songwriting done expertly. I feel like a lot of bands try to lean into being vague in order to chase that mass appeal. That's not what's going on here. Like this is vague to enhance what they're trying to say. And I really like what they do on this song and really the two before this particularly. I think are just master classes in efficient, impactful songwriting.
Yeah. Dan Wayne and Warrell Dane probably could have been BFFs because there's
Oh
a lot
Oh
man.
of
yeah.
similarities in just like the artistry behind the lyrics and, you know, just sort of the poeticness of them without being super overt about here's what this song is about or whatever. You know, they create the meaning in a artful way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think you both hit it right on the head. Like this is it's a really powerful song, and once you look at the lyrics, you can tell what it's about. It's not super explicit. It's not purposefully vague either. I don't know. I'm just looking at the lyrics right now and the line, his words were sharpened hooks beneath your skin. You left them in as he shone into the eyes around him. And I think that really kind of highlights one of the main problems churches and Christianity have in dealing with sexual assault and abuse. Like he as he shone into the eyes around him, I take that as meaning like everyone around him still views him as like this great guy and like, oh man, he could never do that. Yes, he is
Yeah.
the golden boy.
Hmm.
And that is seemingly the default response of churches and Christianity. And it is disgusting because I've seen videos where pastors will like get caught or, allegations will come out. So then they're standing in front of church and they announce their sin to the whole church. And they are purposely vague about maybe exactly what that sin was. And they'll be like, but you know what? The Lord has moved me and I repent. And people, the entire congregation will stand up and clap and be like, wow, what a brave man for telling what his sin was to us. How beautiful. And
Yeah, he's
there's
just
no,
smarmily saving his own ass.
yeah, it's,
But it's so
Hmm.
crazy. People just
yeah.
eat it up.
And
And
then,
it allows them to keep manipulating their victims.
so it's disgusting and terrible. And then to have their friend, to have Zayo's, friend suffer this and then not be believed, like a tale as old as fucking time.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And it's the worst. Tough topic. I do want to shift into something humorous though, if that's okay.
I'll
Because
allow it, but hold on. I just want
okay.
to. So, talking about the lyrics, there was a couple other songs. So, I was just reading, I don't know if it was an interview or what, but they kind of hit on some of the themes, which I just thought was interesting. So, like the Ghost Psalm is about panic attacks. You know, not really what you would traditionally think, oh, this Christian band is going to have a song about that. You know, just talking about like real life stuff. Or the song Skin Like Winter is about being kicked out of church for not being quote unquote Christian enough,
Oh.
which is crazy. Like, I don't know, whatever church they were going to, it sounds like it was pretty fucked up. It's like the guys who are calling out the bullshit are not Christian enough, so let's just kick them out of the church. That is kind of a tale as old as time, too.
All been there.
And yeah, the song Savannah is, I guess, about a porn star who committed suicide after being disfigured in a car accident. So, I mean, they're touching on all these kind of dark themes, but like stuff that really goes on
Yeah.
in life. And yeah, so I appreciate all that.
Yeah. I think it's, better than a lot of Christian music just ends up being just very straightforward and plain and evangelical in nature. And this is not, and I
Oh,
appreciate that.
speaking of which, we kind of skipped over this segment, but I did look up what some of the top or like popular Christian songs of '99 were. And you know how there would be the now this is what I call music for each year, like the secular like hits or whatever,
Yeah.
but they had wow 1999, the year's 30 top Christian artists and songs, and one of the ones on there, well, I'll just the ones I wrote down. So there was Into Jesus by DC Talk. Entertaining Angels by Newsboys. We've talked about both those bands a bit here. But then, do you guys remember that band W's? They're kind of like a
Oh yeah.
ska band. the song "The Devil Is Bad"
Oh yeah,
is
swing revival, baby.
yeah, it was like a swing band. That's what it was. So "The Devil Is Bad," and then everybody's favorite Christian artist, Veggie Tales, had the song "His Cheeseburger" on like the top 30 Christian songs of the year. It's like, oh my God, this cartoon with like a little comedy song is one of the top 30 songs of the year. So, that's what you're getting in the more slightly mainstream
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, before we close this segment, I did just want to turn to our good friends at Song Meanings because I scrolled through them all and this one caught my eye. 23 years ago, Nerd Life left a comment that ended with Zayo rocks my socks. And I recall somebody wrote a similar thing on a previous album we did. I think it was for Soilwork. It was Soilwork rock sores my sock sores. And my God, we need to bring this phrase back. So,
Uh,
oh,
Uh,
well, with that, let us move on to track number 5, The Ghost Psalm, Brother John.
all right. Well, this one starts. You know what? I'm not sure what this clip is from, but it's like, do you want to make a deal? A deal with the devil? And I always just kind of liked how this song started with that little clip from some movie because I don't think that's from Event Horizon. That must be from something else. But then it launches right into some discordant guitar work. And again, Dan Wayans' brutal vocals, which I love. So I guess we haven't really talked too much about them, but just the tone and like the way he hits the growls and stuff, I really like how his voice sounds in this song. I don't have the timestamp, but there's right towards the beginning the line, "My companions are walking corpses." That line has always stuck with me, and I think is just sweet. Let's see. A minute 34 has a cool bridge part. I like what the guitars and drums are doing in that section. Although overall, I'm not a huge fan of the main verse riff in this song. And it seems like it should be done at about 2 minutes and 38 seconds because it's sort of like sounds like it should be a short punk-ish song. But then it gets into a quieter part with, he whispers, "So close." And then it goes on, it like kind of tale of two halves on this song because it builds back up with a lot of like kind of slow powerful drums and just kind of like repetitive droning riffs, and they're saying so close to separation. And then it gets a little crazy at the very last 30 seconds. So, I wasn't totally huge on the first half, but they kind of brought me back with the second half. It was a lot more moody. It's more of a vibes based thing in the second half of the song, but ultimately kind of good. Brother Dave?
I had much the same thoughts on this one. At the beginning, I really appreciate their use of random bars of 5/4 that are just interspersed in there to give it a really off-kilter feel. And now that you mentioned that it's about panic attacks, I feel like that even kind of factors into the lyrical content a little bit with the lead up to a panic attack being really disconcerting and just not fun at all. But I thought the 5/4 was fun. So maybe it's not like a panic attack at all. Um,
Get the fuck out of here.
uh, but the thing that stood out to me the most on this album was, or on this song, was the production. And it has not been good for this whole album, but the it works in the genre typically pretty well, and it's manageable. But this song sounds actively bad to me. It sounds like they're rehearsing in their mom's basement and their mom is recording them through the floor at parts. It's just awfully muffled. Everything is kind of just bad sounding, which is a shame.
I didn't really
despite
pick up on that at all, and I wonder if it's because we covered Horde last time,
Ugh.
and coming off of that production, anything sounds like it was
But like track
expertly produced.
by the last track, didn't they have good production? They learned as they went, and
I
yeah,
think
I
it
won't-
got a
it was
little,
passable by the
yeah,
last
I
one.
won't say good, passable.
but then I think the very final track on that was like the bonus track, and then it was just
Oh,
back to
well,
the bull
yeah.
crap again.
Yeah, they'd improved it so much it looped back around. Horseshoe theory in practice.
Uh,
Uh, so the beginning of this one is rough just for production reasons. And it's like one certain guitar tone. Like some of their guitar tones sound good, but the like heavy chuggy stuff typically sounds very bad on this album. Much like Brother John, I actually like the second half of this song more. It keeps doing interesting things that keeps me invested in the song, even though you're like, wasn't this supposed to be over 2 minutes ago? It's good. It's well, let's say it's interesting but flawed. There's some things going on here that could be better, but I mean overall, they pull it together by the end.
well, the clip from the beginning is from the 1997 mystery film Deceiver, starring Tim Roth. So
Oh,
mystery solved there. Uh, yeah, the beginning 2.5 minutes is fine, but then when it becomes a real dark and moody post-metal song, I'm absolutely on board. I'm like, hell yeah, this is what I've been
Hmm.
waiting for since
since
the
the
intro.
intro.
Now they're finally giving us more of what we want. The people have been clamoring for the post-metal, and it has returned, and I really like it. So yeah, so a flawed banger. Ditch the fat of the first two 2 minutes and just make a post metal album. Track number 6, Desire the End, Brother Dave.
This one's got really good flow. It's got nice interplay between all of the guitar parts. I feel like in this one, it stood out to me how they'd keep bringing in new parts that kind of like overlapped with what was going on at the time, and then they'd kind of fade out one part and fade in a new part. They kind of kept doing that, and it worked really well. This is also the one that made me comment, there's a lot of spoken word on this album.
Oh yeah. Classic metalcore trope, but
Yep.
were these guys the originators? Probably not, but everybody else in the Christian metalcore scene probably copied them.
It's very possible. Um,
Yeah.
this one, it's good and driving a little overlong. And towards the end, it relies too much on that hardcore dissonant chord again. But overall, still a bop. Brother John
Yeah. Oh.
or
Oh,
Paul.
yeah, brother Paul, you can
Yeah, because
tell
I mean,
us.
well, it'll be short because basically word for word what Brother Dave says. But my notes are there are a lot of spoken word over relatively clean guitars.
I desire the end. The touch of Armageddon. This world encased in flames.
And then they punctuate it with the crushing choruses, and it's a very classic, I won't say generic, but like classic metalcore song. And it's fine. It's not bad, but it's there. 3.6 Rontgen. So Brother John.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is the lyrics are I desire the end, I desire the end, a new beginning. So it's kind of like about desiring the end of the world or like death or whatever, but like I think from the Christian perspective being reunited with Christ in heaven. So I noted that like during a lot of the spoken word parts, but like through other parts of the song too, there's a lot of really beautiful guitar harmonies and melodies going on that sort of contrast with the themes of like the end of the world. But ultimately, I guess from a Christian perspective, being reunited with Christ theoretically is a beautiful thing. So maybe that's where that's coming from. So it's not supposed to be scary, from their perspective. That's why they desire the end. And I also have to call out our segment, Bring the Mosh. because at 3 minutes, they have a chuggy breakdown punctuated with guitar squeals, and it was just pretty rad. And after that, back to some more spoken word. Then they do the breakdown part again. So a lot of tropes with the chuggy breakdowns and the spoken word stuff. And at 4:10, they have a real big pinch harmonic tossed in for good measure. But then they're doing the pinch harmonic after each bar, so it's maybe a little overused. But then at 4:44, they change up the notes they hit on the harmonic to make it a little zazzier. So they're like kind of doing the same thing over and over, but then they kind of switch the order or switch the notes they're playing. And I always kind of like that part. That I didn't count how many times they do it, but like whenever I'm listening, it's like trying to figure out when are they going to hit that little
It's
change
too
up
many
note.
times.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit marred by overuse, but it's still fun when they hit that different one. You're like, oh, there it is. It's like a satisfaction of them kind of finally hitting that because they wait too long to do it, so it feels more satisfying when they do. But then at the end, there's another Event Horizon clip where it's the young kid. I can't remember his name, but he's been in a bunch of stuff. Paul, you know who I'm.
I was gonna say, is that Jamie Bell?
Oh, I don't think so.
It's the guy that looks like Jamie Bell, though. Jack Noseworthy.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Where he's like, he's saying it's coming, and the other guy's like, who's coming? He's like, the dark. Duh! And he's like, I don't remember what happens. It's like having a freak out. And then it goes into the next song.
Which is track number 7, Dark Cold Sound. And him whispering Dark Cold Sound is pretty cheesy. And we get some real kind of new metal, groove metal chugs on this one. This is a dud of a song for me. I'm not here for this one, Brother John.
Oh, I guess I didn't have the impression that it was a dud.
Well, the impression that I get is that it is.
Well, my impression, according to my notes, is I like the guitar riffs on this one. But and also
You've
like
always loved new metal.
I don't recall it. I'd have to listen to this one again. I don't recall it being super new metally. But one thing I noticed is like there's a lot of drum fill stuff in the first 30 seconds or so, like the intro, where you're almost like, how's he going to resolve this fill? It's like kind of all over the place. But then he does. So again, it's just like interesting drumming stuff from Jesse Smith. So I appreciated that. And like at 34 seconds, the guitars come in and they have a real fuzzy distortion on them, which if the whole album was this distortion, I would not appreciate it. But like for this song as a stylistic choice, I thought it worked fine. At a minute 30, the lyrics it's the part where he's like, over, 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 and over. I thought that part slapped pretty hard. They have a few, like on this album, I noticed they had a few kind of parts here and there where it's just like sort of a rhythmic, sort of repetitive driving riff and some lyrics that kind of get stuck in your head. Or like just something simple that you can kind of latch onto lyrically to go along with that driving riff. Almost kind of like whipping people into a tribal frenzy or something. Or, that's what they're trying to do with the music. So you could just be banging your head, getting into the metal groove with this one. So I don't know. I thought this one was all right, Brother Dave.
This one was a bit of a mixed bag for me. I think at the beginning, I liked a lot of the same stuff you did. The drumming is standout in the beginning. He's doing a lot of fun fills and like intros to sections. We get an awkward transition at 38 seconds, but I actually really like this one, where it all drops down into just a really stanky groove. I'd even call out Bring the Mosh on this one here. We have, I think, some decent flow into more melodic riffing in the first half, but around 2 minutes, things start going awry. We get the wholly unnecessary punk section, and then just like disjointed shenanigans for the rest of the song. They should have just cut it off at 2 minutes, cut their losses.
Uh, you talk about some really good flow. It's it's because it's a rap rock song.
Exactly.
Yeah, new metal. Which brings us to track number 8, Skin Like Winter, Brother Dave.
This one, I liked it. This one's a bop. It's fun tom work as the guitars build. We've got impactful delivery on the vocals. I don't think I'm as huge on these vocals as Brother John, but they're growing on me on this album as it goes on. And despite not having a traditional like verse chorus structure, I felt like this one it didn't even really have hooks in a traditional sense, but it kept me interested throughout. And that's all a boy can really hope for.
The part at 1 minute 37 seconds where he says skin like winter, that sounds sick as fuck. And they also lay a rad pinch harmonic on us in that part too. So I like that. And there's this cool build, like starting at 29 seconds. It starts to build into the chorus, and the guitar line is pretty sick in that part. There's these pummeling drums, a lot of fast kick and snare and tom work as they build up to it. That part was cool too. So the only other thing on this, at the beginning, they utilized some clapping. What do you guys think about the clapping?
Okay, well, let me go because that's all I'm going to talk about. The only thing I remember about this song is the dumb fucking metalcore hand claps. Uh, every time it comes on, I just went, "Ugh, here we are." It's so, and then every other band did this. No, I okay. The song itself, not terrible, but all I remember is the hand claps, and that's just a ugh. It tanks it for me.
I kind of like the hand claps. And, it's certainly not something you want to overuse. And it has been overused probably in general in metalcore. Like you're saying, there was a lot of bands that utilized hand claps, probably after listening to this song. But it's kind of fun at a live show. It's like gives you a little crowd participation thing to do. So I don't hate it.
I'm gonna slide in between you just like good King Solomon and say, I didn't even notice the claps.
Uh,
I need I need a soundbite for when you don't notice things because that happens so much.
I know. I'm baffled why I am the one who's not noticing these apparently very standout things.
Oh, also,
it's not. I don't know. It could have been more in your face because it's somewhat subtle. So I
it's
could see
subtle.
missing it.
I think it's badly produced. Also, I'll tack on to what Brother Dave was saying about bad production. I think it just sounds bad. Like it sounds like it was
Yeah.
recorded live.
You
And
got to
it doesn't
get
work.
Barry Pointer on here to defend himself. It's like an actual producer, not just some guy recording something in the span of 2 days or whatever it was for horror. This is actually produced by somebody who produced a lot of different stuff. It's like,
Are
what's
you
Yeah.
going
sure they
on?
weren't just in Barry Pointer's basement and he was secretly recording
I
them
was
through
gonna
the
say
floor?
he's got 5 dudes in there, all just like, okay, you're gonna clap now. I'm gonna record you. I'll go upstairs. Tell me when you're clapping, and then I'll hit play. Um, all right. Well, that takes us to the penultimate track, track number 9, Kathleen, Barbara, Brother John.
All right. Well, I like this intro. The drums are pretty cool. It's like these long, kind of drawn out guitar, I don't know, like strums, I guess you would say. Kind of dark and moody and troubled in a way. The vibes on this album are fairly consistent. I mean, it's been a little up and down, but like darkness, I think. It's not like a real peppy, happy kind of sound that they're giving us. Um, oh yeah, at a minute 25, my note says there's a little kind of zizzy guitar part. It's got like hi-hat work on the drums, and then it morphs into this pretty sick breakdown too. So like, let's open up the pit again, baby. But yeah, you should like drop in a clip of what I mean. Now, man, I listened to it right before we recorded. I can't think what exactly this sounds like, but the guitar, it's just like it's zizzy. I don't know. That's the
Zaz
word.
bullets.
Yeah. Zizzy Zazmataz. But yeah, and another example where like they have kind of the repetitive use of the line, your spirit dies from the inside to give it that lyrical hook, and it kind of just like sticks in your head a little bit. Get that audience engagement in the live show. People will be screaming that along with you when they know what you're saying. So that's, I kind of like this one. Paul,
I
tell us why I'm wrong.
No, I think we're absolutely back after a real dud and then one that's mixed. We're back. This song, it's got some good, fun guitar slides. And yeah, that section at 2:43 when he's repeating, your spirit cried from the inside, your spirit died on the inside. I think it's wonderful. I love when repetition is used to good effect, and they really do that a couple of times throughout this album. And that's huge in post metal also,
Mhm.
and they do it really well here. I thought they did it well on the Savior Machine album, but I know Brother Dave hated that.
No.
So I like this one a lot. After two songs that I wasn't wild on, good to know they're hopefully going out with a bang.
Yeah, I also like this one. It's a little slower, but given that we were teased with post rock, I'm not sad that we're getting some slower songs. And that Zizzy portion at 125 is also in 5/4, which is fun to hear, keeps it interesting. And they come back to that riff and like zazz it up with some pick scrapes at 216, which I really
Oh yeah.
like.
I had that
Uh,
in my notes and I just glossed right over it. So
you
thanks.
blew it.
No,
Um,
you saved the day though. Thank you.
you are very welcome. They also do, I noted it here, but they've done it in a couple of other songs, is they, as they're doing the outro, they actually slow down the tempo as they're doing it. And it works for them. I feel like that's a hard thing to pull off because it's hard to simultaneously change tempo of four different people who are all playing music. But you get a little leeway with this kind of music where sloppiness can actually improve the feel of the music. And it really works. I like the effect that it gives.
Well, that takes us to the last track on the album, track number 10, Man in Cage, Jack Wilson. Starts with a clip from Event Horizon, and then it is just a 7-minute long post metal outro. Simple guitar riffing, there's a shaker, and some really accented, almost tribal drumming. This is a perfect song. This is the other song that I remember from the album. This and if these scars could speak. This song is perfection. I love it. Brother Dave.
Yeah, it's a really good song. It's wild that it's like 7 minutes long. There's literally one riff for that entire time, and it remains interesting for the entire 7 minutes purely through variations in the drumming. And it's so good. It's a great album closer. It bookends with the intro, maintains that sense of tension and discontent that they've kind of had throughout the entire album, while still giving a sense of closure. Yeah, this is a great song.
Yeah,
Bring us
I
home.
I agree with what you boys have said. And it also gives us some more clips from Event Horizon, which is fun. At the very beginning, it's just the recording of the people being eviscerated on the spaceship by the hellish forces or whatever's going on. So there's like screaming and stuff. And then the captain of the ship saying, Liberate Te Ex Inferis. And then everything that you guys said, it's an awesome song, like really does bookend well with the intro. It's at 7 minutes, you could almost say that it overstays its welcome, but it really doesn't because it doesn't ever feel over long. Like thinking back, it doesn't feel like a 7 minute long song. So
Yeah.
I don't know. They really pulled it off well. And then right towards the end, it ends with another clip from Event Horizon where it's Jack Noseworthy again saying, "It shows you things, horrible things." And someone's like, "What does?" "The dark inside me from the other place. I won't go back there. I won't."
It shows you things, horrible things.
What does?
Dark inside me from the other place. I won't go back there. I won't.
So I don't know. I think sort of that line or that clip really does fit in, I think, with the some of the darker themes that they're dealing with on this album too. Uh, you know, Basically there is this darkness out in the world or even inside me, but I'm relying on my faith to get me through it and to overcome this darkness. So, sort of a hopeful message in the end, of relying on the Lord to get us through the dark times that this world will throw at us. So, great work, Dan Wayant, on giving us the lyrics in this album.
Well, now I am going to rely on you, our resident rankings expert, to describe our patented six-tier system.
Is the patent, has it been issued or is it still patent pending?
Patent pending.
Okay, I hadn't gotten an update, so just wanted to confirm that. But anyways, you Jesus freaks, it's our final segment, Bop or Flop, where we decide, does the album slap or is it crap? We have honed our patent pending six-tier ranking system, going from six all the way down to one. Of course, we have the bops, a perfect six, unassailable. God has truly shined his divine light on this album. A five, like to stand on that thing, a banger we could easily listen to again and again. A four, or that's doable, a very solid album, worth checking out. And there are, of course, the flops. A three, it lacks zazz. A two, sorry it's not my cup of tea. And a one, belongs in a garbage can. So this album I had not listened to in a long time. But, like you said, when you were asking what should we cover for this season, this was one of the first ones, if not the first one that came to mind, because it always was probably my favorite Zayo album. But then when I listened to it for the first time, I was like, man, this is a lot slower and moodier than I had remembered. And I was almost like, man, was this my favorite Zayo album or was it the one before this? And I listened to that one too, and I think this is my favorite. But it is a little slower and moodier than what I had remembered. But after the first time through, when I was like, oh yeah, this is different, listened to it more times, I was like, oh yeah, I like it. This is good stuff. So I appreciate the vibe. I still appreciate the vibe that they were curating for us. And I thought all the songs on this are pretty good. I like what the instruments are doing. And especially, like I mentioned, I've always appreciated the drumming that Jesse Smith gives us. For being a Christian band, at least the lyrics aren't too overt or pushy. And really, like we've been discussing, more about like the human struggle, which is kind of relatable to anyone, regardless of their faith. So I think Dan Wayant is a great metal vocalist. I like his lyrical content. And I think this whole album holds up pretty well. I would still like to stand on this 26 years later, so I am going to give it a five.
Nice. After a couple of rough picks, in these past couple of weeks. I really enjoyed digging into this album. It's a genre that I mentioned up front. I tend to write off as kind of cookie cutter and uninspired a lot of the time, but this album is neither of those things. It is dripping with intentionality and conviction. And while I typically focus on guitar work, um, which here it succeeds at what it's trying to do, I think actually the drumming really is the outstanding part of this album musically. It's technical when needed, but even more than that, he's just got a great sense of what to play for maximum effect. Like it's not a Dirk Verbeuren showcase necessarily, but like, man, he's a good player. Uh, I think my biggest gripe here is that the vibe gets lost in the muddy production at times, which I thought was pretty bad on some of the songs. And I think if it sounded better, this might actually be something that I actively seek out. But instead, I think I'm going to have to give it a 4.5, that it's very doable.
I like this album. Growing up, and even today, I'm still not huge into metalcore, and I only really knew just a handful of Zayo songs, but listening to this album, I really liked it, and in large part, that's because of the post-metal influences on here. I mean, those influences, the droning, repetitive guitar, the just real tribal accented drumming, it adds a layer of darkness and moodiness to this album that really works and it really sticks with me. As such, I'm giving this a 5, and I'll definitely be listening to this one in the bleak winter months ahead. Well, brothers and sisters, that's all for this week. Stay tuned for the next episode where we will discuss Tourniquet's 2000 album, Microscopic View of a Telescopic Realm. Until then, may the metal be with you.
And
And
also
also
with
with
you.
you.